elder law, you may have heard that term. You need to stay tuned and find out what it actually means for you and your family. And to do that, we have with us David Carrier. Thank you so much for being with us
I'm
today.
so glad to be here.
Oh,
I get to wear my shirt and everything.
I know, we
Great.
appreciate that. Yeah, we appreciate you representing AARP because you do represent older adults in elder law. Before we get into elder law, what it means and why it's so important, tell us a little bit about yourself and the credentials that you bring to this conversation.
Sure. So I'm not from Michigan originally. I'm from Cape Cod. My mom thought it would be a great idea if I went to Notre Dame. Okay, so fine, I go to Notre Dame.
Great mom.
Yeah, well, that's right. But she had some good ideas, right? But from a big family and no money. So I joined the Army. I got an Army scholarship to Notre Dame.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. Well, I had a great time doing it, I have to say. So when people say thank you for your service, I'm like, well, if I didn't have such a great time,
Still, I mean, you're very humble, but thank you for your service.
Well, you're very welcome. So I owed the Army 4 years. Thank you, American taxpayers. And someone said, well, you can go to law school if you want to. They'll give you time off to do that. So I did. I took the 3 years off. Went to Boston University, went back home to BU Law School. After that, I clerked for a judge for a year, so the Army gave me another year off. And then finally I went on active duty to Washington, where I got my Master of Laws degree in taxation from Georgetown. Thank you again, American taxpayers. But I was working at the Pentagon and got into some planning and that kind of thing. So when I came out, I went to work for the big law firm. And at the big law firm, I was doing some tax law and some litigation and this and that. And fortunately, they fired me after 2 years. And frankly, I would have fired me after 6 months because, well, I did fine at the Pentagon. I got my medals and all that. But working for a big law firm is a little bit different experience. Okay, you're a little separated. Right. And so with 3 kids, I had to figure out, and a farm, I had to figure out how to make it work. And I always enjoyed the estate planning part of it, and the practice just grew kind of naturally. It's been 34 years now that I've been really focused on the estate planning. I got into the elder law aspect of things, and elder law, let me tell you right now, elder law is a terrible name. Terrible name. Yes. We're stuck with it because that's what it is. But it's not a good name. It should be asset protection. It should be avoid nursing home poverty.
Financial security.
Financial security. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And so often when you say elder law, people, I got to be elderly to do that. And it's not at all true. And it doesn't really tell you what it's about. You know, some people think it's more like, and I'm disabled or something. Well, no.
Or that there's a different law for if you're older, a different law if you're...
Right,
yeah, right.
Right. Well, sometimes I think the older I get, the more, and the older folks I deal with, it's more like common sense is elder law, right? I mean, you deal with some young people, and where's the common sense?
And watch it now.
Well, yeah, don't let your kids watch this, right? But I'll tell you what happened. I was doing estate planning, normal estate planning. And right away, I found out that the trust-based estate planning that people were doing didn't work. Most of the time did not work because there was no follow-through. There was no follow-through to make sure, and if you have a trust, in that trust there's a letter that says, hey, don't forget to do these 23 more things. And nobody ever does the 23 more things. Now, I thought they did. Right? When working at the big law firm, they say, clients will take care of this. About 6 months into my own practice, I realized nobody actually did that. So we started back then with the follow-through. But I'm into it about 3-4 years, and a client comes back, the wife. It was a husband-wife team, right? And sort of your typical couple that I was dealing with. Middle-class folks. They worked their whole life, they raised their kids, they paid off the house, they had some savings, not a lot, not a terrible lot, no debt, they were good to go. doing the estate plan for folks like that is what I've been doing, 22,000 times now. But, that's what we do. We plan for mostly regular folks, okay? Well, they're just like the perfect couple. You know them from church and friends. Well, 3-4 years later, she comes in with her oldest son, whose name happened to be David, okay? But that's just true. Anyway.
My dad's name is David, by the way.
Well, there you go. You
So,
see?
yeah.
Beloved of the Lord.
Absolutely,
We're everywhere.
absolutely.
That's right. So, well, she comes in looking like something the cat dragged in. Okay, looking just beat down, looking terrible. I'm like, what the heck happened? What's the deal? And what happened was her husband had the dementia, right? And for the last few years, he had been in the state. It was the county hospital, but it was in the dementia, the long-term care unit. And well, first of all, she spent the money, and then she mortgaged the house, and then she mortgaged the house again, and then she started taking cash advances on the credit cards to pay for the mortgage on the house and to pay the long-term care facility. And after about 2 years, 2.5 years, it just all kind of seized up. She couldn't get any more cash. And it was like, I didn't know that was a problem. Nobody ever talked about it being a problem. Nobody ever said, oh, this is what happens here. It's total silence, radio silence on that. And I knew that, there is a program to pay for the long-term care. But I didn't know how it worked. I just figured this can't be the way it's supposed to work. So that's what got me started in this elder law, and I had heard elder law. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but that's where I really started getting involved in it and realizing that planning ahead for the long-term care is you can't call this is my view of the world, okay, and it's not what everybody else is saying. I mean, I'm an estate planning attorney. I said, what do you do? Oh, I do wills and trusts and powers of attorney and all this. I said, what about the whole long-term? Oh, no, I don't do that. Well, how in the world? Right. It's like I make cars, but I don't make seatbelts.
Yeah, right. How do you do that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's where I first realized that it was a big deal, and that was 30 years ago. Wow. And so every plan that we do, right, is aware of the fact that people need long-term care. Mm-hmm. Now, Cleopatra was not the only queen of denial. So a lot of people don't, recognize the issue. But National Institute of Health, right, and it's government numbers, okay, fine, it's government. NIH, and you can check this on your own. It's longtermcare.gov. It's right there on their website. Cost of long-term care, who needs it, how long. And when you're 65 years old, you have a 70% chance of at least average, I don't say at least, 70% chance of 3 years of skilled care, 20% of folks 5 years or more. Now, skilled care is not just nursing home care. Could be assisted living, could be help at home, that kind of thing. But for more and more people, and then as you get older, as you go from your 60s where the utilization's pretty low, 70s starts to get to be a real issue, 80s, 90s, and people are living that long.
Right, absolutely.
You know?
85 years old is the fastest growing age group in America. And people aren't planning to live to be 85 years old. They're not planning appropriately
That's
to
correct.
live to 85 years old.
Right.
So you talk about the ladder in terms of age. At what age should someone start planning for long-term care? Isn't it less expensive if they start earlier and then plan, like when they're 30, 40 even, or?
Right, so back in the day, when I first started this, the long-term care insurance, that was not a bad thing. But what happened was they priced the long-term care insurance. This is why you hear, and I've seen, 100% increases in premiums, right? 20% increase, all that kind of stuff. And so an awful lot of the insurance companies that used to do long-term care insurance have pretty much given up individual policies. You might be able to get one as a group, in a group policy, right? But the long-term care insurance, we had high hopes for it, didn't pan out.
So what should people do? I mean, name the 3 things that someone listening to this program, which is probably all of Michigan.
Yes.
What are the 3 or 4 things that they should do?
So number one, recognize that it's a problem. All right, get yourself out of that denial and say, look, this is something that happens to almost everybody, and if you live long enough, it will happen. Okay, so let's number one, accept that reality. See, everybody wants to avoid probate. This is what they do when they come in, right? And I always, whenever I do a workshop, I show hands. Who wants to avoid probate? Who wants to save taxes? Who wants to get it to the kids, make it easy for the kids? There's always a joker who says, no, I don't want to. But pretty much, that's what people want to do with estate planning. But that's like, A, right? We do this thing, C, profits, but we forget about what's in the middle.
Right. Yeah. You're needing care for you or your loved one or your
Right.
spouse. Yeah.
And they don't plan for themselves. It's like being on an airplane.
The seatbelt.
With the oxygen
oxygen
mask.
first.
Exactly right. You got to put your own on, because if you're blue, you're not much help to anybody else. So, number one, recognize that it's an issue. Recognize that it will be an issue for you, and then we can take very effective steps, right up front, to plan for the long-term care. So, I'm a big fan for years now, since 2006, when the federal government said, okay, see, up until 2006, when it came to the long-term care, every state had their own, here's what we're doing, all different. And then they brought it, federal government, George W. Bush, brought it all together and said, okay, here are the rules for all 50 states. So the good news is, if you do a plan for the long-term care in Michigan, well, we've got people in Florida who are using it. We've got people in Texas who are using it. We got people in California, God forbid, who are using it, right? So because it's based on the federal law, the plan that you do here is now...
It's consistency
yes,
across the states.
And because it's federal law, right, and they got very specific in the statute, which is unusual, now Congress would have to change it. So we went from a situation where the rules change a lot. They still change, but not as much as they used to. And it was Michigan specific or state specific. Now we've got something that works everywhere, and it's pretty hard to change. We can rely on it. And so for the last 18 years, we've been basing our plans on the law that was established then, and it works.
And so what does long-term care look like? I mean, tell me exactly. You said people are planning for their children, they're planning to stay out of probate, they're planning. When I'm planning for myself, what does that look like? What does that mean?
So, as you probably realize, everybody just can't wait to get to the nursing home, right? We're all like, oh boy, it's like Disney. It's like Disney World, right? Oh boy, I'm going to.
So many other options, yeah.
Right, and here's the thing: when we do the planning ahead, when we protect the assets, your life savings, your home, your cottage, your hunting property, your farm, whatever it is you own, and if you're 60 years old and you have a house, you should be doing this kind of work, okay? It's not that expensive. It's more expensive than wishing it away. Yeah, but what isn't, okay? But it's not crazy. And if you have, like I say, if you have a house, because a lot of people say, oh, the house is protected. Well, not really. And a lot of people will downsize or sell the house, and now you have unprotected cash, okay? So that's all built into this. So I say if you've got a house, then you should be, paid off house, or even if substantial equity in your house, you should be thinking about it in this way. The key is that nobody wants to go to nursing home, right? So one of my slogans for a long time has been avoid nursing home poverty, okay? Avoid nursing home poverty. And then people are like, well, I'm not going to go to a nursing home. And I say, well, here's the good news. Here's the good news. That the government, right? See, you get Social Security. You paid in, you get out. Medicare, you pay in, you get out. Medicaid, which is what pays for long-term care, You've been paying in for the last 40 or 50 years with your income taxes, right? But you don't get out.
Right.
They take all your stuff, right? Well, wait a second. Doesn't have to be that way. And it's not just, this is a real important point, it's not just nursing home. So we're very fortunate in Michigan that we have a very active, what we call PACE, Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. Huge fan of PACE. Because
So are we.
Oh, good, good. Well, because it does what everybody wants. Right. The whole idea behind PACE is it's 40 to 60% cheaper for you to stay in your house. Stay in your house. Right. Don't you want to stay in your house? Right. Sure. So let's stay in our house. It's a Medicaid program. You have to qualify for it just like you qualify for nursing home care. Right. But chances are you don't need a nursing home. Most people don't. What they need, and that's the point of this, remember we talked about skilled care. 70% of people need skilled care. That doesn't mean you need to be in a nursing home. What it means is you need some help.
Right, exactly. And there are people who feel like they don't have a choice and they have to send their loved one to a nursing home or some facility or adult foster care facility or a direct care workers coming into your home. There are just other options to explore, and you need to have access, right, to all those options before you make a decision.
Right, right. But don't be thinking, oh, it's nursing home or nothing.
Right, exactly.
Because that is, and when we first started doing, 30 years ago, we had PACE was in just a few counties, here and there. The map has really filled in.
We support PACE all the time.
So,
budget, everything. For the hearings, the budget, we completely are big fans of PACE. So that's another option that people have.
Right.
So I'm the 65-year-old person or 60-year-old person at home, and I'm listening to you. What's the first thing I do? Besides calling you, but I mean,
Well,
or calling an elder law, or calling an elder law person, attorney, not person, elder law attorney.
So what's
the first thing I do?
When you talk to whoever it is you talk to, right, is you say, and this would be the test, you say, I want to avoid probate, save taxes, get it to the kids. Right. How are you, this is the challenge, to the attorney or the planner. Now, financial advisors, great. You've invested my money, you've done great portfolio management. They don't know anything about long-term care. Right. They don't know anything about this sort of planning. And it's like going to the dentist when you need brain surgery. It's like, what? I'm not, or going to the brain surgeon when you need a,
So we've got like about a minute and a half left. So they would find an elder law attorney and they would say those three things: probate, protect my assets, but I also want long-term care.
That's exactly it. They have to be able to talk to you about what it is they're going to do to protect your assets, recognizing that Medicaid, right? Every nursing home takes Medicaid. Right. Medicaid is assisted living. Medicaid is at-home care. Medicaid is skilled nursing if that's where we have to get to. But most people don't need that. And it's really about tailoring a solution that works for you. But if the person says, oh, I don't do that, well, then I don't stick around here. I'm going to somebody who has done Medicaid applications, has done Medicaid planning, has some familiarity with it. We've done thousands of cases, so we kind of have a clue as to how all this stuff works. But that's what I would say is, tell me how this works for the long-term care, and don't accept, well, we're going to pay for that out of your investments. Well, unless you're unless you're Bruce Wayne, no, you're not.
This is such important information. I know someone who sold a business, a multi-million-dollar business, and they told me that they'd rather have my health care insurance, because I worked at the schools, than the multi-million dollars that they have, because long-term care is so expensive.
It's $18,000 a month, and anywhere from $300 a day, which is cheap, to $600 a day. That's what people are actually paying.
Talk about so much to learn. Thank you for being with us
you
today,
betcha.
David. Appreciate you and appreciate all that you're doing, your 34 years of experience doing it. Thank you.
CATA's regional mobility solutions can help seniors seize the day. Hear what our riders and community leaders have to say about the value CATA brings to the lives of aging adults.
Cata and Ready Ride have been wonderful with my services I need. Been using about 8 years, and I use Ready Ride and Cata. Well, the reason I like the Ready Ride service is, they take me where I need to go, and the drivers, they wonderful too, They let the ramp down, and I ride on, and they raise me up, and I ride on, they strap me in. If I have extra bags or whatever, they're always willing, to take them to the door. They never go in, set them outside, and all that. And then they always conversational with them, we just talk about everything, I'm a veteran. Went to the military in 1967. Went to Vietnam, did my time over there, came back. If I had to do all over again, would do it for serving my country, Yeah, just learned I could ride, without paying now, which is wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I ride free because I'm a veteran. I use Cata 3 or 4 times a week. I use Ready Ride mostly. Sometimes go shopping. I ride free, and I appreciate that. Well, that's really something I don't have to pay to get on. Then I know that I can call them up, and they're pretty good about being punctual and stuff like that. I'll say that. And it's very important that I ride with them because of Cata. I can do that. I'm independent.
Direct care workers, family caregivers, what are they? What do they do? And why do we need them so desperately? Thank you so much, Jen, for being here to talk with us about those.
Hi, yes, thank you for allowing me to be here. Direct care workers, it's a broad spectrum, right? Because a lot of times if we think of a direct care worker, we think of a certified nursing assistant. But that's not really the case, because there's a lot of people that work within other facilities, assisted living facilities, in-home care, that aren't certified. Family caregivers, they are all direct care workers, and a lot of times they don't see themselves as such. So it's important that we raise the awareness about what a direct care worker is, so that we can get those people involved and recognize them for the work that they do.
Absolutely. And Michigan is one of the fastest aging states in the nation. And so the older we get, the more we're going to depend on people to kind of give us some assistance, right? For whether it's a direct care worker or a family caregiver. What are some of the criteria that's needed for a direct care worker?
Training. Lots and lots of training. This is not a job that you can go into without proper training, because there's just a lot involved. You think about taking somebody to the bathroom, but it's more than just taking somebody to the bathroom. It's how they get there, what they can do for themselves, what they can't do for themselves. You got to know those things, and you got to be able to help them in the areas they can't do that. Same with bathing and all these other areas that we take care of people. And it's also, it's a broad spectrum. It can start with companionship, and it goes all the way to end of life.
And thank you so much for what you do and for shining a light on what family caregivers and direct care workers do. Thanks for being here, Jennifer.
Thank you.
My name is Austin Peterson, physician assistant, and I'm going to be talking about calcium supplementation today. So the importance of calcium is because it's required for a lot of processes in your body, namely cell signaling, neuromuscular function. Also, calcium appetite is required for bone mineralization. It makes up a significant portion of that. So there are a variety of causes of low calcium. Normally they are liver problems, kidney problems. Also, certain osteoporosis meds can reduce the amount of calcium in your blood, so we want to make sure that it always stays within a good range. Ways to find out if your calcium is too low would be if you're falling, having a lot of fragility fractures, if you're having symptoms such as paresthesias, which is numbness and tingling in the hands and feet. If you have any muscle cramps or muscle spasms, those can be signs that the calcium in your blood is too low, or even in your bones is too low, and appropriate testing can kind of find out what's the issue there. So the best way to get calcium we recommend is from diet. Patients with osteoporosis over the age of 60 and postmenopausal, we recommend getting 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. Premenopausal women and males, we recommend about 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. We recommend you get it from diet if possible. So 3 servings of dairy is generally the best way to accomplish that. Otherwise, you can also get it from dark green vegetables and almonds, and certain juices are fortified with calcium as well. But supplement-wise, you can take calcium carbonate or calcium citrate, but those are generally only recommended if your calcium is low in your blood. Otherwise, food is the best way to get it. And then the risks of too much calcium are increased risk of kidney stones. You can have GI upset and constipation. So if you have too much, it's a bad thing. So if you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low calcium, talk to your doctor. They can do the appropriate testing and see if you need any supplementation.
So we've all talked about the sandwich generation. What is the sandwich generation? What do we need to know about?
Yeah, the sandwich generation is the generation that ate sandwiches. No, that's not that. Sandwich generation, the idea is you've got folks who are caring for parents and caring for their own children, and they're kind of in between. And we could spend the rest of the day talking about situations we've had where kids did just that. The sandwich generation was a real thing. It was everywhere. It's what happened. What we're seeing now, though, is that's really kind of past. The generation of kids, and there's still a lot out there. I'm not saying there are none. There are a lot out there. But what we're seeing more and more is when the kids try to take care of mom and dad, they'll come to us and we'll say, well, here's the PACE program, here's these other supports that you get. Oh no, we're going to take care of mom ourselves. Well, they're back in 2 weeks saying, I had no idea that there was so much involved. And so, for your own sake, you know, if you're counting on your kids to care for you, nowadays, I mean, back in the past, yeah, that was a real thing. Right. And you could get help from the church lady. Right. Well, the church lady needs long-term care herself now, and she's not being brought along. And so, you know, you've got to do the planning. This is what the elder law is all about. Is about making sure that when you need resources, the resources will be there. The resources you paid for will be there to serve you. Yeah. And that sandwich generation, it was a real thing, but...
And that caregiver needs to take care of themselves. So thank you so much, David. I appreciate that. Thank you.
When you're a military veteran with over 4,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. You'll find a one-stop shop for free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts. Visit aarp.org/veterans today.
Earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and wildfires are all events you can't control, but you can be prepared for emergencies like these before they happen. Learn how you can be ready if a disaster strikes by visiting the link on your screen. Don't you just love being here in Michigan? And don't you just love AARP Real Possibilities? So much information and news that you can use. Thanks for watching Real Possibilities.